Hey everybody, it's Mr. Markley coming with another video this week. This is an interesting topic because I try to work with the fifth graders on it, and I didn't even get to finish this year because we ended up leaving. But it's something I try to work on with the kids, and hopefully, if any adults watch this, it can help you too. But listen up. Hopefully, you can take some of this advice and use it to help you. We're going to be talking this week about conversation, and it's an important thing that we don't get a lot of practice on. We think we do, but we really don't. So I'm going to help you work on it. Part of the problem is we're so engaged, myself included, on screens nowadays. Everything is done on the screen. We're on our phones, we're on our computers, we're on our tablets, iPads, TVs. We're very focused on that, and we don't take the time to have good conversations. And when we do have conversations, sometimes we don't use these tips I'm going to tell you about that can help you actually have better, more meaningful conversations. Some of the things you've probably heard of when it comes to conversations are have eye contact, nod, smile, think of topics in advance, summarize what people say, repeat what they say. Those aren't necessarily bad ideas, but I want you to take those ideas and throw them out the window because those aren't ideas to help conversation. Those are ideas to show people that you're paying attention. And if you actually pay attention, there's no reason to have all these tricks on how to show them you're paying attention. So instead of doing those things, just actually pay attention, and that will help with conversation. So we're going to work on how to be engaged, make a connection. Okay. So the first one is don't multitask. Don't try to do more than one thing at once. Be present and focus when you're having a conversation. Try not to think about other things that are happening, in your life. If you can't be fully in a conversation and you're only halfway in, don't have the conversation. If you're distracted by something else that's gonna not allow you to be invested in that conversation, tell the person and then have the conversation at a different time. Okay? Rule number 2, don't lecture. What I mean by this is if you're bringing up a topic without expecting a response of any kind, then it's not a conversation. You're just trying to teach someone something. So don't start a conversation if you're not really expecting any response from people. Enter in every single conversation you ever have, assuming that you have something to learn, right? So I think Bill Nye is the one who said this, and I might not be getting it exactly, but I believe he said, everyone you ever meet knows something you don't. So imagine that every time you go into a conversation, that person has something to offer, even if you are talking about a topic that you think you're an expert on, they might know something you don't. So be prepared to learn, okay? Use open-ended questions. What I mean by this is try starting questions with who, what, when, where, why, how, right? So if you're having a conversation and somebody tells you a story and it seems like they might have been scared, if you say, were you scared? What do you think their answer is going to be? Their answer is going to be, yes, I was scared. Great conversation, right? Instead, try, what was that like? How did it feel? Right? You'll get a much more interesting conversation that way, and you'll give them a chance to explain, right? Rule number 4, go with the flow. So part of this problem is when a thought comes into our mind, a lot of times we let it out. What I'm going to tell you is during a conversation, if someone else is talking, when a thought comes in your mind, don't let it out. Let it go. Okay? Just because you think of something doesn't mean it needs to be heard, right? If someone's in the middle of telling you something and you think of something interesting, let it go. Because the two things that are going to happen is you're either going to say it and interrupt them, which that's not a conversation, that's just you talking and not listening. And the other problem is you're going to sit there and think of the question or statement that you had, and when you're doing that, you're not listening. Okay, so let it go. Number 6, don't equate your experiences with theirs. Okay, what I mean is if someone tells you how much they like something or how much they dislike something, you don't have to tell them about how much you like it or dislike it too, right? First of all, it's not the same. If they tell you how much they really love their dog, you telling them how much you love their dog isn't the same thing. You don't know the experiences they've had with that dog. You don't know why they like that dog so much. And if you listen, you might find out instead of trying to own the and dominate the conversation and get your piece out there. Um, Secondly, a conversation is not about you. It's about the two or three or four, how many ever people there are together, right? So don't try to always make the conversation about you by pitching in and equating every experience someone has with yours. All right. I'm on number 6. Oh, let me finish. Another reason not to do that is because a conversation is not a chance to prove how cool you are or how difficult things are for you, right? They're not an opportunity to promote you. So just try to listen. All right. Number 7, try not to repeat yourself. This one's a pretty short one, but repeating yourself is boring and it makes people feel like you're talking down to them. So if you say something, assume they heard it. If they didn't and they didn't get it, they'll ask. Okay. Number 8, stay out of the weeds. What I mean when I say stay out of the weeds is I'm using the weeds as an example of specific facts and details. If you're telling someone a story and you have to tell them about the names of everyone in the story and the date and the time that it happened, people do not care, right? They want to hear about you and the interesting things you're trying to tell them, not about the specific details. No one cares about the time you did this at 8:42 p.m. It doesn't matter. It's not an important part of the story. So they want to know about you. All those little details, they're not about you. Just leave those out, okay? Number 9, and this seems obvious when you're having a conversation, but listen, right? Number 9 is listen. Maybe it might be the most important skill that you can develop. Buddha, Buddha actually said, and I thought this was funny, if your mouth is open, you're not learning, right? So if you're busy talking, then you're not learning anything. So try to listen. It's really easy to talk because when we talk, we get to be the center of attention, and we get to make ourselves look good, which is always fun, but it's not always the best thing to do. One thing is we can talk as an average person talks about 225 words per minute. Now, when in our brains, we can take in, most of us, about 500 words per minute. So what happens when we're having a conversation is we tend to fill in those other 275 words that we're missing in our mind while people are talking. And if we do that, we honestly get distracted. So try to really focus. It takes effort and energy to truly pay attention to someone. So you have to really work at it. And if you can honestly listen, you can have a real conversation. If you can't and you're focused on those other words that you're missing, then you're not going to have a real conversation. And if you're not having a real conversation, you're just people that are shouting out unrelated sentences to each other. And that's not a very, meaningful thing to do. Stephen Covey said, we don't listen with the intent to understand. We listen with the intent to reply. So what that means is when we listen to someone, we're not really trying to understand what they say. We're trying to think of how we're going to respond to them. So try to understand rather than reply, okay? Number 10, and this is the last one, is be brief, right? People don't want to have a conversation, have you talk about one topic for 20 minutes without any response or reply, because that's not a conversation, right? That's just, again, that's you teaching them something. That's you lecturing them. So try to be brief, get to the point of your topic, right? And that'll make your conversation go much smoother. I'm going to end this by saying if you try to enter every conversation getting a point across, it's not going to be a good conversation. It's going to lead to arguments and anger and resentment. So instead of that, try to enter every conversation with the mindset of I'm going to be amazed, right? If you are prepared to be amazed, then you never know what might happen. So those are my tips for helping you learn how to be a better conversationalist. I apologize if you can hear dogs in the background. My dogs are going crazy in the other room. But I will be back with another video next week. Hope everybody's being safe.